Kun. The header is good, and it's the Thai defender John Tae-wook, and eventually Korea have broken the deadlock.
You're listening to the K-League United podcast, proud partner of Football Nation Radio.
Hello, annyeonghaseyo, Ryan Walters. In the very proudly named, we would never besmirch the name of Kim Do-hoon, coming live to you from the Kim Do-hoon Bunker. I am joined this week by Matthew Binns.
Hello.
And Pete Hampshire.
Hello, mate. Fresh across from a run across Gimje, freshly into my own little personal bunker.
Yeah,
I can't call it the packaging stock bunker anymore, can I?
Oh, no. No, we'll get into that little bit of business. But yeah, all sorts of things going down. We do have a Korean football news roundup. But sticking on the note of managers, and instead of me eating an entire crow on the internet, Matthew, you had some managerial news, very hard-hitting managerial news before we came on.
Well, yeah, I think we're going to touch it on in the news roundup. But Jose Moraes is, he's left John Bucket. I mean, it was kind of expected and widely reported his contract's ended. And, he's already at home or somewhere with a swimming pool anyway, wherever it is. It looks lovely on his Instagram. So fair play to him.
And that led into the natural question, which we decided to save for the podcast because the people want to know, which K-League manager would you want to go on holiday with?
I think for me, I was going for one from the past. I was going for Jorn Andersen.
Oh.
Think of the stories he could knock up. Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he's shirtless on the cover of his book, right?
He is, yeah.
Like... You're in for a wild night with that dude. Yeah, okay. I like that one. I was saying that I would not go out for a night with Kim Tae-won because, as Matthew often says, he just scares me a little too much. So he's who I would not be going out for a night with because...
I mean, but on holiday, like...
Maybe on holiday he just like really cuts loose, but I also think he could drink me under the table in like 20 minutes. I don't see that going well. Anyway, Matthew, I'll save
we should
you.
invite him on the KLU Christmas party this weekend, and he could show us all how it's done.
That's right. Yeah, we'll get him on the Zoom quiz and see how he does with everything else there. Matthew, quick answer before we move on to the actual podcast, or do you want to pass?
I'm gonna pass. I don't think I want. I see him enough in the season. I don't need to go on holiday with any of the K-League managers after.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, we are going to be talking. We'll be talking quite a bit about managers throughout the show, really, because it is the off season. The transfer window is open for managers. A lot of changes there, but we're going to get to that after we talk about the AFC Champions League, where two Korean teams, just as we all expected, two Korean teams have made their way through to the quarterfinals. And Ulsan Hyundai still looking good, still undefeated, 6 wins in a row. And Suwon Samsung Bluewings went and did what I think a lot of folks thought was pretty impossible, and they went and beat Yokohama F Marinos and looked good doing it. So, gentlemen, let's start with what I think is the easy one here. Let's start with Ulsan Hyundai. They ended up winning 3-0 against a pretty good-looking Melbourne Victory side. Big Bjorn came off the bench and got himself a brace, Bjorn Johnsen, and Won Du-jae had a just fantastic goal. There is an amazing photo that we put out on Facebook. I love this photo. As Dan Croydon put it, it's the definition of a free header, but he is, I mean, his head is above the crossbar. Like, he just goes aerial for this thing. And it was a very thorough performance. And as I've said on Twitter, and as I will say on here now, I've bagged on Kim Do-hoon all year, but man, he really got it right in this game. Yes, I just think he got it very right, using his depth appropriately. But Pete, what did you see in this match?
Well, I know Melbourne Victory beat Seoul to get into the knockouts, but I still think it was probably a good time to play them. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the domestic season's getting underway in a bit, and they're still sorting out their squad. You know, they've got players coming into the squad who aren't settled in yet. Some are just quarantining and not actually part of the squad yet. So probably a good time to play them. I mean, I've only seen the highlights of both the games because of time difference and getting up for those lovely children to teach in the mornings. But yeah, I was impressed with both of Bjorn Johnson's goals because they were real poachers goals. The second one running into the back stick, and the first one real reaction after it was bobbling around. The first one, wasn't it? Off Kim In-sung, and he really stuck it in the net.
Yeah, and Matthew, I think this is an area where we had a question that came in. We do have a pretty full mailbag, so we didn't have time to get absolutely everything in. But one of the questions that came in was about Ulsan's depth and kind of comparing it to Jeonbuk. We've kind of already put a lid on Jeonbuk and ACL. I mean, bring them up if you want, by all means. But I think the depth, again, was the big issue for me here. And I think it was really impressive in the first half how well a lot of the fringe players and a lot of players that haven't been getting a ton of minutes kept, again, a pretty good Melbourne Victory side at bay.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. Ulsan have got strength in depth. We can make the comparison to Jeonbuk, but I played the world's smallest violin last week when Jeonbuk got exited the competition. So I don't think I need to go into it there. But yeah, Ulsan, despite the injuries, I mean, they have had key injuries like Cho Hyun-woo and stuff out, but they've still got talent there, and we knew that all season. And to be honest, that was one of our criticisms in the league. We thought that perhaps he didn't rotate enough. Perhaps he burnt out some of his squad, not changing those players up at times. But they're doing well in this competition, and yeah, they've got the depth, and they've got. There was rumours today that Cho Hyun-woo, if he can test negative, he could well be flying out for potentially one of the latter rounds, assuming they get through the quarterfinals. Yeah,
which would be absolutely massive. I mean, yeah, it's hard to, you don't necessarily want to mess with team chemistry too much. And Cho Soo-hyuk, I think, has done a really fantastic job to step into this role and do as well as he has for Ulsan. But Cho Hyun-woo is arguably the best, if not the best, Korean goalkeeper in the entire talent pool. So if you can get him along, I think you have to. But we'll talk about their match against Beijing shortly, because we have to talk about the other Korean team that made their way to the quarterfinals, and that is Suwon Samsung Bluewings, who beat Yokohama F Marinos 3-2. And my first note on this is what? Because this is a team that they scored 2 goals in the group stage, man. Like 3 goals. Sorry. They just were not scoring goals at all. And then not only did they put 3 up on Yokohama, which, Yokohama's defense is not the most mighty in J.League, but they've done all right in the group stage. And Suwon went and put 3 up on them, and they were really good goals. I mean, all 3 goals that Suwon scored last night were really fantastic. Pete, which of the 3 was your favorite? Let's start there. Well, for folks that didn't watch, go watch the highlights. Even if you're watching live right now, just hit pause on us. Go watch those 2-minute highlights on the AFC's social media and come back, because wow. But Pete, which of those...
Does that include me? Because I haven't seen those highlights yet. Can I go away for 2 minutes and come back?
Fine, Matthew.
The only goal I've seen is the one from 45 yards, which was fantastic. The keeper didn't know where to look.
All right. Well, Pete's done for this segment then. Matthew, which of those Suwon goals impressed you the most? And I do know how much you love talking about Suwon and praising them.
Well, yeah, I know. But, hands up, it was a fantastic performance from Suwon. It was genuinely a really, really good showing. They showed commitment. There was energy. They had a plan as well. They knew what they were going to do. They knew their limits, and they executed it to perfection. Yeah, there was a few wobbles in the first half, but they came out that second half. And just to answer your question in regards to the goals, I'm torn, because I really liked the second one. Kim Min-woo's just kept running through that lovely little back heel from Lee Sang-hyuk to just get that final touch into him, and he just slotted it straight past the keeper. But then Kim Tae-hwan, we were praising him. Well, he was picked out in the preview as one of the players to watch by our writer Shibaji Das, and yeah, he was just a fantastic goal as well. He took it inside, little step over, and blasted it in from just at the edge of the penalty area. So yeah, 3 well taken goals, and the third one, well, just opportunistic. He saw it and he thought, well, I could try that. So yeah, take your pick. Yeah, I've got them on shuffle. Well, I would. I mean, but yeah, I'm a Jeonbuk fan, so no.
Yeah, I do love that Han Suk-jung's 45, like it barely past the halfway point. that's the game-winning goal in the end, because Yokohama got one back in the 91st minute. So in the end, this one that... Look, Obi has been fantastic for Yokohama. He saved an Oscar penalty, which, that's happened before. But he's looked really good. I think he lost this one. I don't think he had any idea where it was the entire time. But even if he did, the placement on that third goal is just superb. I mean, nobody's getting to that thing where it is based on where the keeper started there. But to me, shout out to FNR, was on there just a little bit earlier talking about this today. To me, the main takeaway is just how well Suwon were organized. And Matthew, you've been saying this for as long as people will listen, Kun-ha-matata, man, because he's got them playing some brilliant football right now. And what I was talking to them on FNR about is the fact that they might be doing this because Adam Taggart isn't there, which I think is an interesting point, because he's always that focal point and they always kind of rely on him, and they don't have to keep the ball on the floor as much as they did in this one. And in this, I think they played on the counterattack, which really Yokohama was willing to have them do, but it ended up biting the Marinos. But to me, this is the best I've seen Suwon in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I fully agree, and I think we said that when we saw them at the Super Match, and that did have Adam Taggart in it, and that very much had Adam Taggart in it. But he looked like he was getting it right. I think when he was appointed, I think the words I said, it was a bold choice. I wasn't 100% convinced either. I'd be lying if I said if I looked like some kind of psychic. I didn't really think that. I just thought he'd sort out a bit of defence, and that's what he did with Seoul Eland until he could get them working together. I mean, you worked under Che Kang-hee as well at Shanghai Shenhua, so he's got some good tutelage. I think that and this is not to do a disservice to Suwon's performance last night, because it was fantastic and well executed, brilliant game plan. But what he has had as well, he's had. So unlike Ulsan and Jeonbuk, who had the FA Cup to contest, he could get straight to work on his Suwon side. He'd been kind of honing that Suwon side towards the end of the season as well, getting them into form, getting them into shape, and he knew his injuries well before Ulsan and Jeonbuk did and Seoul did, because Suwon didn't have any national team players. I'm not saying that was Suwon's plan to make their players non-pickable for the national team, but it worked because he got to have them out there. He's got to work with them, and again, not their fault, but JDT dropped out of the competition, so he's had more time as well to work on stuff between games. They've had longer spans between games. I mean, take nothing away from them. They got two very good draws against Guangzhou, and they got the win they needed against Vissel Kobe. And then you look at what they've done last night. So yes, he knows what he's doing, and that Suwon team look really. They've got a lot of cohesion at the moment, and it'd be interesting to see how far Suwon can go in this, and B, what he can do in the off season. I think last week we had a question in saying who's the biggest threat to Ulsan, and I think we all chose Yokohama, and we mentioned Beijing, which Ulsan will be versing in the quarterfinals. Spoiler alert! But I'm thinking, Ulsan's tendency to Ulsan. You're thinking maybe Suwon might be Ulsan's biggest threat to stopping them from getting to the final.
But I mean, that's kind of the thing about tournament football, right? Is that if you bunker and you're good defensively and you can counter effectively, which again, to me, that was the main takeaway for Suwon in this one, was just how well they countered and how organized they were, and how immediately, like, they were swarming the ball immediately. And as soon as it turned over, those players were immediately pulling defenders out of position. The first and second goal for Suwon, both of those, you can see decoy runs happening off the ball that we just didn't see from them in the regular season, where they're pulling the defenders out. And Kim Min-woo, you give him that much time in the middle and he's going to make things happen. And he did. And I think a lot of that happened in this match because of what was happening off the ball. And we just weren't seeing that before Park Kun-ha was in charge. So again, kudos to him, because he's just getting it right now. And he'll have another chance. We've already alluded to this. He will have another chance to get it right when they face Vissel Kobe yet again, Andres Iniesta and Vissel Kobe, a team that they beat 2-0 last time when Kobe knew that they were through. So this will obviously be different. Pete, I am going to bring you back in here.
I went to the home leg against Vissel Kobe back in February, and that was actually a decent performance from Suwon as well that night. It was kind of there was a fanfare about Andre Iniesta playing, understandably, but still, it looked like it was going to be a good season in the league off the back of what I saw from Suwon that night. That didn't work out, but clearly Park Kun-ha's got them going. And I was speaking to Scott Whitelock this afternoon, trying to gain some insight on the match, and he said it's the man management from Park Kun-ha and also players like Iki J coming back, which means Minu's in the centre of midfield and can create more.
Yeah, I thought it's one of the things that was quite well done last night was Kim Minu started off on the left. I mean, he kind of wanders across central midfield, but he started primarily on the left of central midfield. And then with the substitute of Kim Gon-hee coming on and bringing Ko Sung-bum back into the centre, Kim Min-nu moved more over to the right and started linking up with Kim Tae-hwan more. And I thought that was key as well into Ulsan turning it around in that second half. But yeah, it's just looked good. And yeah, they're very exciting to see at the moment.
Yeah, and I think this matchup against Vissel, going in Vissel Kobe, I should say, I think, I don't know, going into the match against Yokohama, you thought this could get really ugly for Suwon, but based on the way that they've played and how they played against Kobe last time, are Suwon the favorites in this? Because, I mean, Vissel Kobe went out and did what they needed to do against Shanghai SIPG, but SIPG just didn't look a threat once Hulk was out of the lineup, to be honest. I mean, he had a tiff with the manager and he was just gone for the tournament. He's announced his departure from the club on social media today. And they just didn't look the same. I was not impressed with Shanghai SIPG. And that's not to take anything away from Kobe. You can only play who's in front of you. But, Pete, would you put Suwon as the favorite in this one?
Can you put a team as a favorite when you don't really have any recognized strikers? I mean, when he started on the bench.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have them as favorites. I think they just, but like you said, it's tournament football. When you get on a good run in a tournament and you bunkered in out in Qatar and you get part of that group. I've seen some things on Instagram where it seems like they've got some good team spirit. So who knows?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a fun one. We've already seen that matchup once, so we kind of know what to expect there. The other match that we don't necessarily know what to expect is Beijing Guan versus Ulsan Hyundai. Beijing, another team that they've looked good in moments, but then last time out, they only scored once against FC Tokyo. That was Alan or whatever name he is going by Alan these days. He is a naturalized Chinese national team player now. They've got some talent there. Augusto is fantastic for them as well. And then there's this center back that I think you might remember, Matthew.
Yeah, they've got the former John Bookman, Kim Min-jae, who he lit up the league, obviously, when he was here a couple of seasons ago. I don't think he's actually as well revered at Beijing as he was at John Book. I think there's been criticisms leveled at him at Beijing, but he's still, to use his nickname, a monster when it comes to defending. And he won't be put off by the threat that Ulsan pose. He's defended talents. He has defended junior before, but he's defended striking talents much more deadly, much more threatening than what Ulsan have. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, they've also got Jonathan. They've got Jonathan Vieira with 4 assists as well. You didn't mention him, but he's also great player they've got. And I don't really know what to expect of Beijing, because it's not normally that we're talking about them as favourites for the competition. They're one of those teams that make it to the knockouts at times and then get knocked out. So I still think Ulsan probably are the favourites. They'll find a way around Beijing. But yeah. All
right, so Ulsan's going to get through there. Pete, do you agree?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I was thinking that sounded a bit harsh on Ulsan. I think if you look at the competition, I'm not sure about Persepolis' front line, but you wouldn't say Ulsan have got the strongest forward line in the competition?
With Bjorn Johnsen firing like he is right now. I mean, when Junior's your backup option, you're doing all right. But
on the second goal last night for Ulsan, everyone followed Junior in the box for the header. It was so clear, and he had a free header to knock home.
Yeah, and that's exactly that was what was missing at times for Ulsan during the regular season, and it's great to see it happen in there. So I'll make it unanimous and say Ulsan's getting through. Real quick before we take a break, and we do need to go to a break, prediction for the Suwon Vissel Kobe match, Matthew?
Well, Andre Iniesta came off injured in the knockout rounds, didn't he? So that kind of changes things, because then they're definitely not the same team without him. I just also want to point out, by the way, that Yokohama and Shanghai have both gone out, and they were in that group of death. So it's like, but no, just to go back to, I think they've got a good chance, Suwon, here. It's going to be tight again, but let's say 2-1 to the Bluewings.
Okay. Pete?
I'm going to be the party pooper and say it's Kobe against Ulsan in the semi.
Well, I think it's going to be an all K-League semifinal.
I hope so.
I will not be betting against Suwon after I saw how they played last night. All right. Well, those matches are going to be happening Thursday night here in Korea, late night for the night owls here in Korea, and then the Eastern portion champion will be crowned this Sunday. So before we are back next week, we will know who's going to be playing in the final. So let's hope that it's K-League side. We'll see how it goes. Should be some interesting matches Thursday, but we're going to take a really quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk about the news in the past week.
Fans, we want to hear from you. You're encouraged to email KLU at info@kleagueunited.com or tweet at KLeague United with any questions, comments, or reactions. Or follow us on Facebook to ask directly during one of our live shows.
Welcome back to the K-League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, joined this week by what I guess I could say are the usual co-hosts, Pete Hampshire.
Hello.
And Matthew Binns.
All right.
Yeah, gentlemen, it's been a little while since the three of us have been on. So, yeah, welcome back, I guess. Anyway, let's talk about the past week that was, because we've been very focused on ACL for obvious reasons, with the Korean teams doing as well as they are. But there's also been a lot going on elsewhere with managers galore. And Matthew, we touched on this at the top, but Jose Moraes has officially left Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors.
Yeah, Jose Moraes leaves Jeonbuk after 2 years, seeing out his contract and opting not to re-sign. He leaves with 3 trophies, 2 league titles, and picking up the FA Cup, being the first manager to do so for Jeonbuk, rather. He also won the Manager of the Year in 2019. So, yeah, he's done very well on paper, I think. In terms of his performances on the pitch, there were often, criticisms leveled at him and things. But I think this season, domestically at least, the team did settle in the second half of the season. And all credit to him. He got the big results when they were needed against teams like Ulsan. I think he's leaving kind of at his height. I think we kind of perhaps saw his limits in Qatar now. Yes, he was restricted by a number of injuries that we talked about at length last week. But when you look at how other managers are handling their lack of squad depth and still managing to get the results, perhaps we were kind of seeing him, fully tested to what his abilities. So, yeah, it's a departure, I think, that suits everyone. His stock wasn't exactly high when he came into the K-League. He was more of Jose Moraes' assistant manager and former Barnsley legend that got him the position. But I think he leaves now, and he has done a good job at Jeonbuk. I don't think we can deny him that. He's got, he's made history with Jeonbuk. So he leaves. His stock's at his highest. He leaves Jeonbuk, and Jeonbuk have the chance now to, if there were any doubts about his managerial ability, well, now they can just refresh them. But yeah, fair play to him, and he was always welcoming to us and approachable, and best of luck in the future for him. Yeah,
I won't add much to that. I think, like you said, it's the perfect timing. Stock's not going to get any higher. But speaking of high stock for a manager, Pete, Park Jin-sop has left Gwangju, and as of today, just before we came on, a little bit earlier today, it was announced, surprise, surprise, as we all kind of knew, that he is going to be joining FC Seoul So a little bit about what he did for Gwangju, but also we did have a question come in from Osri Furman asking specifically for you, since this is your team. I guess he doesn't know that you hate Gwangju secretly. Anyway, with Park Jin-sop and Seoul, who would you like to see taking the hot seat in Gwangju? So I guess just a little bit about that first, but also who are FC Seoul getting for the folks that don't know or haven't been paying attention to Gwangju?
Yeah, I always say that I'm not really a Gwangju fan. I'm just the person who lives closest to Gwangju out of all of us.
You love them and you know it.
Yeah. And then I got a girlfriend from Gwangju just to make it make it all easy and tie up the loose ends. But yeah, so we're going to get Park Jin-sop after 3 years at Gwangju. His first year at the Yellows, he finished in the playoffs. They lost to Daejeon, and then the second year he won the league. Now he gets a lot of plaudits for winning that league comfortably, I must say. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed in Seoul's reasoning for hiring him was entertaining football. Mm-hmm. But I didn't see much entertaining football in there in winning the second division. I've seen a lot more entertaining football this year in the K1, where he's really just released the what's the words? Not the purse strings, the
Kraken.
Yeah. He's just allowed us.
Is that what you're calling Felipe now?
To show their quality. Last year in the K2, it wasn't fun to watch. They were scraping games. It was a machine of a team. This year, it has been entertaining. So I can understand if Seoul have watched the games that Gwangju have played this year, I can understand that. The games against Seoul, incidentally, this year were both terrible. So it's not one of those managerial appointments where they've played well just against Seoul. So they thought, why not him? They've clearly done the research on him. And yeah, I think overall, an interesting appointment, and it leaves Gwangju in a bit of a pickle because it seems like there's rumours about players going everywhere. Felipe and Willian, heavily rumoured to be going. I mean, there'll be lots of suitors for Won-sang, and that front three is the main reason why Gwangju got into that top six.
Yeah, it'll be a big struggle for them next year, losing those three, if that indeed does happen. But either way, I think just losing Park Jin-sop is going to be a big loss for them. So to answer Osri's question, then we'll move on quickly. Who do you want to see take over the hot seat?
Oh, yeah. I want Chae Young-soo. Get him down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, you've seen a lot more of his football than me, but just looking at his record, I think Gwangju aren't going to... He's not queuing up to be Gwangju manager because, behind the scenes, it looks a bit of a mess. Players are leaving by the look of it. So get him in.
He's available. We know
he's an
that.
Established K1 manager. He knows the league well.
I don't hate it. Of the Korean manager, of the Korean coaching carousel candidates, I think, I don't hate it. All right, Matthew.
Well, if you look at your other options, it's who is it? Im Wan-sop, Im Seng. So there's not too many.
Jose Marais.
So imagine
Get him in.
every week me down at Gwangju interviewing Jose.
That'd be great. Perfect. All right, Matthew, let's move on to a player that might become a manager eventually. Who knows? He was fantastic at reading the game, and that is Jung Jo-guk, who announced his retirement last week.
Yeah, Jung Jo-guk retires, finishing his career at Jeju United, but he's obviously got quite a storied career. He's 392 matches, he scored 121 goals, 29 assists, and in that time he won 2 league titles, an FA Cup, a couple of League Cups, and he's also K2 champion as well after this season. He also famously won the MVP while playing for Gwangju in 2016, and he did that whilst also picking up the Golden Boot, scoring 20 goals in 31 appearances. So yeah, he's packed it in. Understandably so. He's had a very decorated career, and he now plans to go into coaching afterwards, apparently.
Yeah, and I think he'll be quite good at it. And I think that might have been part of what it was this year in Jeju, is kind of a player coach kind of situation. But nice way to go out, lifting a trophy, and deserves nothing less. He's always been really fun to watch. So speaking of folks that are on the way out. Pete, we also have to say these are all taken from, most of these are taken from
goodbye to Pete. Hang on.
Yeah, bye Pete. Most of these are taken from Paul's news roundup, and if you haven't read these, get on it because his puns are fantastic. And this one is bye-bye, or bye-bye if you will, and that's Bae Ki-jung has also announced his retirement.
Yeah, it's someone who's won both the K1 and the K2 and an FA Cup to go with it. Most of that at Suwon Bluewings. And he's done the Branco Belan dance. He's been at Jeju and Asan in a 5 years period. He's hopped off the island to Asan and then back to the island. He's in and out. So that's as decorated as you can be, really, to play for both of Branco's teams.
The Bronco Derby.
The last 5 years, he's been with Gyeongnam in between both divisions as well. He's really been a yo-yo player between the top two divisions.
And just winning along the way. So, yeah, good on him, and happy days in retirement. Somebody that is not retiring but is also moving on, and as Paul put it in his report, tie to go for O'Neal. Brandon O'Neal is leaving Pohang Steelers, and he's going to be joining the best team in Thailand. My favorite team, anyway, Buriram United. He's still just 26 years old. I was looking up a little bit about him today. I forgot that he's still that young. He featured 13 times for Pohang this year, managed to get over 1,000 minutes, 89% passing accuracy, and 78 interceptions in 13 appearances. That's pretty good. And I think this is a really good signing for Buriram, a team that seems to be using K-League for their scouting. Samuel Rosa is also on the way there. And I think both of those players have been part of championships as well. O'Neal won the A-League with Sydney. Rosa was, he was on Jumbuk. And I think that brings a championship pedigree back to Buriram, a team that is not where they're used to being right now. And for O'Neal, he's also got the opportunity to link up with the Supas, Supachok, Supanat, and Supachai over there in Buriram. A couple of trio of young players that I think are just tremendously exciting that he will very much enjoy having on his team. And I think shielding that back line is kind of something that Buriram needs right now. I think it's a good fit for him, and it's a good move for him as well. I like it all around, and hopefully we can see Buriram back in ACL beating Jumbuk in the Thunder Castle. Because it's fun.
I'm not going to give it the response it deserves. Anyway.
All right, Pete. We're back to you. And obviously, we wish Brandon O'Neal all the best there. Yeah, I like it. Weird seeing, it's not the player movement that I want to see so many K-League players going to Thai League. I want to see Thai League players coming to K-League, but maybe this is what opens the door to have it come the other way around. But Pete, let's move on. Let's stick with Pohang, but move on to you here because you're talking about Kim Gi-dong.
Yeah, he's signed on for another 2 years. He's already been at the club since January 2019. There was reportedly some interest from China in Kim Gi-dong, but you have to think that's most likely some agent talk to
unnamed Chinese club is always at it.
Yeah, try and engineer that new contract, add a couple of extra £100 on a week. He's got a 56% win rate in K-League One, and obviously they finished fourth in 2019, third in 2020. So if he continues that improvement, then it's a decent continued appointment. You'd think this winter for Pohang, it's all about keeping the star players. And if Kim Gi-dong's got a relationship with players like Ilyuchenko, then he can try and convince them to stay.
Which is going to be massive because there are rumors galore about where he might be going right now. One of which is Ulsan, which would be a real interesting switch. That'd be all sorts of fun. And the one of the other managerial changes, back to managers here, Matthew, we've from Bento to Busan.
Yeah, from Bento to Busan. You've given me a manager with another questionable track record coming into the K-League, and I hope you're probably thinking that I might be able to give enough of my magic to make it work twice. But yes, Busan I-Park, relegated this season, have decided to try and find their way back to the top flight with new appointment Ricardo Perez, former assistant to Korean national team manager Paulo Bento. He only actually has a very limited amount of managerial experience, actually. He was in charge of Casapia in the Portuguese second division earlier this year, managing 12 games, just winning once. Okay. Yeah, it's So you wonder what's been at hand here, because obviously Busan I Park, their CEO, he has links to the KFA, or working on the KFA board, and I think this has come with a recommendation, a seal of approval from Paolo Bento. I mean, we're gonna have to see how he does, because he's you know, we can say 1 win in 12, but we don't really know. I don't really know the situation he was facing there. Sure. He might have get a completely different situation here if he's got the seal of approval from Paolo Bento. Paolo Bento will want to besmirch his own reputation by recommending somebody that can't do the job. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, but he's a bit of an unknown quantity at the moment, and the K-League 2 is not exactly an easy division to get out of.
Not
as
next year.
As Busan well know as well.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult league to get out of, and I'm surprised they've not gone for somebody more experienced. This has more of a feeling, less of a feeling of Jose Moraes and more of a feeling of your former manager at Jeonnam, Fabian Suarez, for me.
Yeah, we don't talk about him.
Mm-hmm.
we don't talk about him.
But yeah, might be proved wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always going to be a fan of seeing some new blood come in, which leads in perfectly to the last two managers that we're going to be talking about. I'm up first here with Red's redemption, and that is Bucheon hiring former FC Anyang manager Lee Young-min. He was with Anyang in 2015 and 2016. They finished 6th. He joined halfway through in 2015. They finished 6th that season. And then the next year, when he was in charge the whole time, they finished 9th with 11 wins, 13 draws, and 16 losses. So I don't really have a lot of confidence for Bucheon coming out of this one. That is an odd appointment as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what's going on there, but hey, I would love to be proved wrong. But that's who's in at Bucheon. And Matthew, the last one here, we have Rethinking Violets.
Yeah, I was actually, when I read this one, I wasn't 100% sure what was going on here. I thought maybe Paul was having me on a wind-up. It's Lee Woo-hyung has come back to Anyang for his second spell in charge. He was the first ever manager at Anyang, and in his first season, he led them to 5th way back in 2013, before being sacked in mid-2015, at which point he took his career towards China, not the Chinese first division, not the second, but going down to the 3rd division to take charge of Shenyang Dongjin. Now dissolved, the Shenyang Dongjin, and he took charge of them for the 2016 season. They won twice in the whole season, and then he either was let go or left on his own accord by the end of that year. And that's as far as his managerial record goes. I assume he's been doing stuff elsewhere in that time, but it just seems a very violet tinted glasses appointment here. I don't know. I don't really. I mean, we're talking about trying to get fresh blood into the league, and I feel that this, for a team that's struggling like Anyang, this feels like a step backwards, right, to be honest.
Yeah, Bucheon and Anyang both here. I think those are some interesting appointments. We'll see how they do when the season starts back up. But yeah, that's what's going on in the Korean coaching carousel as it is right now. All sorts of things happening in the transfer window as well. So we'll probably have to be reporting on that again next week. But for right now, as I mentioned before, we do have a pretty full mailbag. So we are going to take a quick break and come right back for the mailbag.
Eulji Lewis is your neighborhood British bar and cafe located in the Uljiro district of Seoul. Decorated in old English antiques and furniture for a true homely feel, you can enjoy homemade scones, cakes and afternoon tea during the day, and traditional British favorites like beef stew, English ale, and a fine selection of wines at night. Available for private parties or simply an evening out, Eulji Lewis is sure to become your favorite neighborhood pub. Be sure to mention J.League United at the bar during your visit, and you'll get 10% off your bill.
Welcome back to the J.League United podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Walters, joined by... What are you doing? I'm joined by Matthew Binns. What are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing nothing.
And
perfectly normal.
From the bright sunshine of Gimjae, it's Pete Hampshire.
Yeah, we're in a different time zone down here. Yeah.
We've had a few comments coming in about how bright your apartment is right now, but looking good. All right, Matthew, go ahead and hop into the Eulji Lewis Mailbag, rummage around, and what do we got in there?
Okay, first out at the mailbag this week, it's Clint Jones, and he's usually out in the 94th minute.
Hey.
But Clint is asking, do you think Jeonbuk will promote one of their current coaches as their new head coach, or will they go down the foreign route once again? Which available and possible foreign coaches would be a great fit for Binz's boys? Which, I'll take it. But it's won my heart already here. Jeonbuk, it's widely rumoured it's going to be assistant manager Kim Sang-sik. He was wanted, Chae Kang-hee, former manager, wanted him to take over after him, but at the time he didn't have the coaching badges. It's been 2 years since he's been assistant manager to another title-winning manager. I feel that he's got the badges now. I feel that he'll be looking to take the role on full time, and it'd be a simple transition. I think he's the players all know him. It's not like Jeonbuk are in disarray. They're just wanting to keep moving forward. He'll work well with the board because the board signed Jeonbuk players, inverted quote marks. What I mean there. Jeonbuk always wait for the awards, pick who they want coming off the stage, and get them in. So I think, Kim Sang-sik, I think, is the favourite at the moment. I've not really heard of any other rumours. I'm surprised that they didn't make a move for Kim Ki-dong, which makes me think it definitely is going to be within house. Because if they knew Kim Ki-dong was not 100% sure on signing his contract, you'd think that Jeonbuk could just swoop in and say, sign where you want.
They just love Po Hong.
They do, and the transfer rumours. Well, we'll get into the transfer rumours on another podcast, but they're circulating at the moment, and it looks like Jeonbuk might be going shopping down at the Steelyard once more,
as they always do. As they always
do. Next out the mailbag, it's Daejeon Citizen Fan Club Brazil via Twitter. From the rumours in the transfer market right now, what would be a transfer that changes the most of the current level of a team? So, for example, from a mid-table team to a title contender, or from a relegation side to a top half side. And he's put some options as well, like Iljichenko to Ulsan, Felipe to Jeonbuk, Na Sang-ho to Seoul, but free to make your own.
Yeah, I can't imagine that Felipe to Jeonbuk rumor would come off, because it seems like Gustavo is going to be there next season, and he's the set number 9. Out of those that he suggested, it'd be Na Sang-ho to Seoul for me. He's going back under his former manager Park Jin-sok, and obviously had a fantastic end to the season with Songnam, and just seems like a perfect fit for them. Talking of Gwangju, actually, it just seems like they're setting themselves up for failure.
The drop?
Yeah. Something needs to happen desperately soon. I'm guessing they've got some new names lined up in terms of a manager, but it just seems like the cherries on top of their cake are being picked off.
Yeah, and
if that is even a metaphor that exists.
I was seeing where you're going with it. I was letting you ride that one out.
I assumed it was a Peep Show reference that I just wasn't getting, so I just let it go. To me, I wholeheartedly agree. I think Na Sang-ho to Seoul would completely change that team. He creates on his own. He's very dynamic. I think if you've got him and Cho Young-uk on the wings and Ilyachenko up top, if Ilyachenko is available, Seoul need to do what they can to go and get him, because I think he would complete that team in a lot of ways. They don't need midfield help. The midfield is already very solid. If they can get Han Sung-gyu on a permanent, fantastic. I think he was their MVP this year. Let the Park Ji-young money come off of the books. Get him gone. Spend that money more wisely on somebody that's actually scoring goals in this league, and that's Ilyachenko. And he's just been fantastic up there. And again, if you pair him with Na Sang-ho, then I think you might see Cho Young-uk finally come into his own up there. And then in the midfield, you've got Ki Sung-young and Osmar marshalling things with Kim Jin-ya and Han Chan-hee as your other options. I mean, that put anybody you want on that back line. As long as you got Yang Han-bin in net, that team's going to be fine. Ilyachenko to Seoul would just... I mean, to me, if they get him and Na Sang-ho, they're definitely fighting for ACL. Definitely.
Okay. Next out the mailbag is a very happy follower. It's Scott Whitelock coming in with. He said it last night, and he wants to say it again now. Mm-hmm. Is it too early to announce Suwon as the 2021 K-League 1 champions?
I think he just didn't he?
I was thinking Suwon needs to be careful with Park Kun-ha because John Book haven't got a manager, and we know how they love to approach people.
As soon as he's off the plane, there's just somebody with the John Book bus waiting right there. To Jeonju, sir. Yeah. No, I'm very happy for Suwon, but no, you need a striker over the course of a league. And they have that in Adam Taggart right now, but there are rumors aplenty of him leaving. So we'll have to see what their transfer business is. Happy for them right now. Hope they can keep it up, but nah.
Well, that kind of links into our next question from Azri Furman, and he's asking, do we see Suwon in the top 4 next year? So let's knock it down a peg. And he also asked, do you see Taggart staying, considering how well Park Kun-ha has steadied the Bluewings plane, using a bit of a aeronautical metaphor there.
Well done.
I don't see Taggart staying. It seems like there's going to be a striker merry-go-round this winter. In it, one transfer will kick it off, and we'll see Felipe over at Pohang or something. We'll see a switch around of strikers, it seems, this winter. Top 4, I think, is possible for Suwon next year, but it's just a collection of teams that are going to be fighting for it, and they can't all finish in there.
Yeah. You know what? Give me Taggart at FC Seoul. I love it. If they can't get Ilyachenko, go ahead and get Taggart. Make him do the switch.
I can't help but feel that if there was a striker merry-go-round, that Suwon is going to end up with the really poor option. I'm just working out who that is in my head at the moment. But I think Suwon, it's far too early to tell. But I mean, early signs are that the manager is steadying the ship a bit, and he's give him a winter. Let's see what he does over the winter. Let him get his players in, and then maybe we can judge it halfway through next season. I don't even think it's something we can judge at the start of next season. But once we start seeing him with his own players, his own strategy. There's no reason why they can't do better. There's no reason why they can't do better than this season, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's important not to get too carried away by the Champions League performance, because teams have been all over the place, haven't they, with their squad selections. But Suwon have had quite a relatively experienced squad available. Even if the players haven't been on top form coming into the tournament, all their starting 11, apart from a couple, are experienced players who've played in national teams. So,
well, and they were in good form coming into it. They were one of the best teams in Final B. I mean, as Matthew said, we were both really impressed with them when we saw them in the Super Match, and I was impressed with how they finished the season. So I think they were in good form. And then also, as you said, Matthew, they had a ton of time to rest because JDT wasn't able to travel. So there are things going in their favor. But again, all that doesn't add up to the performance they put in against Yokohama last night. He's got them playing real well.
Yeah, I think that's something we come back and review next season. But promising, good times to be a Suwon fan at the moment. We have Kevin via Twitter. Kevin is asking, with the Chinese Super League recently making moves to remove corporate names like the J.League, will the K-League eventually follow? So just to kind of fill our listeners in who might not have been following this story. So the Chinese Super League from next season, they're going to be removing corporate names. So, for example, Beijing Guoan. Guoan is a corporate name. Beijing have already made steps, it seems. They're renaming themselves Beijing FC for the Champions League, although that's not their official title yet in the Chinese Super League. There are the Beijing teams available, I believe. But yeah, it's going to affect a number of teams, and there's a bit of pushback from some Chinese Super League fans, mainly of the older teams, not the newer teams, but the older teams who say, well, this is actually part of our history, and we don't want you to change our name. But then you've got the newer clubs and some of those fans saying we want to get rid of the corporate names. We want to have more of a traditional sounding football name. So to apply this to the K-League, well, we've obviously got John Book Hyundai Motors, Ulsan Hyundai, Seoul, Eland, the big three off the bat there.
Suwon Samsung.
Suwon Samsung Bluewings. So, I mean, I'll give my opinion in a minute, but what do you take? What's your take on it, Ryan? Because I mean, your club, the one you support, is owned by POSCO. It's technically it's one of the richest clubs in the world if they wanted to use their money, and but it doesn't have POSCO in the name.
No.
And same with Pohang. Pohang is also owned by an arm of POSCO. Doesn't have POSCO in the name. How do you feel personally?
I mean, I don't love the names being in there, but I also, this comes up every now and again, right? I feel like this came up last winter as well. And Dan was talking about how integral Hyundai is to Ulsan. And I mean, what large companies are here is different than what they are anywhere else that I've lived or experienced. And so I don't really see it going away here. I personally don't like it. I like the fact that the Jeonnam Dragons are the Jeonnam Dragons and not the Posco Dragons. Or Jeonnam Posco, or what I don't know what else the name would be. Jeonnam Dragons is the best name in the league, so I'm glad that we have that. I don't see it going anywhere here. I don't see that happening.
Pete?
No, those chaebol companies have intrinsic links in the communities, like in Ulsan with Hyundai. It's not like it's just a company who was paid the most money who's decided they're going to call themselves something silly. I think they do have historical links, but in the most part, and that's what the petitioning is for in China, isn't it? It's that, like you said, it's some of those teams have had those names since the 90s, so you can understand why they're lobbying to keep that name.
Yeah, I think that kind of exactly where I stand on it. I mean, the K-League was formed as conglomerate teams. Before then, the original teams didn't even have the location name in it. That was a change that came in the 90s, where the teams had to put the name of the city they were playing in. So, Hyundai Hyorangi became Ulsan Hyundai, and it's
missed that alliteration though, man.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, I think it's just you can't compare. It's Asian football and European football. I can understand why if somebody came in and changed, if the Manchester City suddenly became Manchester Etihad Airways overnight, there'd be uproar, and rightly so. But these teams have always had this because it's how football was formed over here, and I don't think we're even at place to comment on it personally. But I can give my opinion. I don't like it, but. I can't say get rid of it. I do think that the fans don't chant the core company name, not Jeonbuk anyway. I can't speak for Ulsan. I know at Suwon they don't exactly chant Suwon Samsung. They just chant Suwon. They'll use the Bluewings, but they'll never use Samsung in the name. I don't know fans' opinion on it. It'd be interesting to get longer term fans of the K-League to get their opinion on it. But I personally think it's just part of the history, and it's part of why Asian football leagues are unique in a way. It's just one of those things.
And if we change it, we can't have Red Bull Busan. So
you keep pushing for that. It's not going to happen. Right. Finally, last one in the mailbag is Todd Weil via Twitter. And this is a bit of an inception tweet. It's a tweet within a tweet within a tweet. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to go
Tom
deep
Berenger.
into I'm going to go down into the third layer. So Todd has brought forward a tweet. Okay. And it's a quote tweet. Okay. And I've got to read the quote tweet to give you the... All right. So this is how we're going to... So the quote tweet is it's redacted, and it's about somebody saying, the truth is that the K-League has plateaued for some time now and isn't as competitive anymore. The J.League has taken its place, Asia's most competitive league. As a J.League fan, I'm happy to see this shift in power. Well, congratulations, J.League fan. You've got a great product there. Do I agree? We'll see. Then this has been shared by L, who's regular in our mailbag, who's come with, it's obviously a massive achievement for lowly Suwon, beating the J-League champs. But what I'm happiest about is that I might be able to avoid seeing the terrible takes like this on Twitter for a few months unless Kobe go all the way. So he's complaining about this, saying that, K-League is still superpower. And then Todd with is the following tweet valid? I personally don't think it's a terrible take to say that the J-League, and in brackets 6 champions in the last 10 years, has been more competitive than the K-League 3 in recent years. But maybe the tide is turning. So it's a K-League versus J-League debate. Which is Asia's most competitive league? Ryan.
I mean, we can't say Korea's league, can we? We can't say Jeonbuk's league because Jeonbuk just keeps winning. I mean,
depends how you define competitive, though. I mean, it was
if we're talking
season.
Domestically, then I mean,
but
also,
okay,
it's not apples to oranges, but I mean, we can't really deny that J-League's done better in recent years, but this idea that K-League is just done Yeah, I'm very happy to see K-League beat 2 out of the final 4 teams in the East, because I'm tired of hearing this kind of crap that K-League can't keep up anymore and this and that and the other. And look, yes, this year has extenuating circumstances, but every team in Doha has to deal with those extenuating circumstances. And the fact is, K-League is making up 50% of the final 4, and you can't deny that there's still quality in this league. I mean, maybe it ends up being Beijing versus Vissel Kobe. Maybe that's what ends up happening. But we could also have a K-League semifinal, which guarantees a K-League team into the final. And if that's going to happen this year, I don't think we can... Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with L here. I don't think we can say that like K-League's plateaued and washed up and done with. Not when we see the young Korean talent coming through that we see making their waves onto the national team as well. Won Du-jae is fantastic for Ulsan right now. We've seen what he can do for the national team, and I think he's going to have a fantastic career. And as long as talent like that is coming through and playing in this tournament, no, K-League hasn't plateaued. Has J.League done better recently? Oh, yeah. Yeah, they really have. And they have the trophies to back it up. But
I agree. I just wish you had chosen a different player. Won Du-jae obviously signed from the K-League, no, the J.League, and
yes.
Came into the league. But forged, I say he's forged in Ulsan, just for the argument's sake.
Yeah, I mean, look, I want more movement between the leagues anyway. So
yeah, no, I'm kind of joking there, but yeah,
that's a good point though.
I think, I mean, the J.League, the product J.League has is very good. I fully implore anyone who's going to Japan, I fully implore them to go and watch the J.League. Football's great. You don't know what's going to happen every year. It seems very difficult to predict. I think if you want to find out more, you can listen to one of the FNR podcasts, J Talk podcast. They cover it every week, much more than we can do it justice here. But yeah, J.League is a great product. I think when we come to Champions League, we finally get to give them a fairer comparison. But again, it's not the be-all and end-all. There's teams. That tweet caused quite a chain of tweets that I can't. It's already taken me ages to explain this tweet. I can't really explain all the takes. But there was a take in there from our writer Dan Croydon, and he was saying that he would like to see the K-League expanded to kind of increase that competition, maybe improve relegation spaces, increase the number of relegation spots. They're changes that I'd like to see. And J.League operates a far wider league structure, further league pyramid. A greater league pyramid.
Yeah.
K-League needs to start moving towards that, in my opinion.
Yep.
Sorry, Peter. Anything to add to that? I've kind of jumped in.
You couldn't say that the K-League's plateaued in the last couple of seasons. If you just take the last few games in both those seasons, it's been fantastic entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Going down to the last couple of games. I know we've had the same winner for the past consecutive 4 years, but it could have easily not been. So it's been whatever the opposite of plateaued is it undulated? It's been an undulating season.
I mean, I was going to say you could argue that another team should have won the league the past 2 years. I mean, Ulsan really should be coming into ACL this year as back-to-back league champs and FA Cup winners. So.
One of them, maybe one of them. But no. Anyway, enough of that. Let's not go down that route because we know how it always ends. Anyway, that is the mailbag. I'm closing it there, but there are a lot of interesting topics. Feel free to get them in the comments when this podcast comes out because there is a lot to chew on there, and we don't necessarily have the answers. We're always happy to hear other people's takes on things. Anyway. Enough of the mailbag. If you like what we do, you can contact us on social media, all at K-League United, or you can even slide into our emails, not two-footed ideally, info@kleagueunited.com. You can also find us on Patreon if you want to support us. That's patreon.com/K-League United, where we have exclusive editorial pieces like Korean Overseas by our very own George Slade. That's just had its second part uploaded recently. We have Saturdays by Paul Neat, which is a series of statistical pieces that come out every Saturday. There you go. That's how it works. We have full player interviews, podcast extras, and the big one. If you want to want to be a late entry into our Christmas pub quiz, this Saturday, you fancy testing your K-League knowledge, then signing up at any tier will get you, well, we can put you on the invite list. So that is happening this Saturday. I will be the quiz master. There'll probably be a lot of John Book questions, but that's how it rolls.
It's going to be great. It's going to be good. Yeah. And if you can also get the podcast rundown on Patreon when things aren't as crazy as they are right now, with ACL being the way that it is. The rundown wasn't up there yesterday because we didn't know what was going to happen in Suwon's match. But most of the time we will have the rundown up early on Patreon, so you can get involved a little bit earlier there. And if you want to listen to this podcast live, you can do so every Thursday on Football Nation Radio down in Australia. A fine time to tune into that radio station in general, as they are back in their studio, sounding good, looking good on the live stream. And A-League starts in just 19 days. And I was talking about this when I was on there earlier today. I really liked what I saw from the A-League teams in ACL. I will be tuning into that league. I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's a really entertaining, fun league. So if you want to get caught up on all the things going on down there, FNR is your source for that. And if you subscribe to this podcast and you leave a review for us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, or wherever you download your podcast, then we'll enter you into this month's K-League kit contest. And I realize we still haven't picked a kit.
Oh, yeah.
Oops.
Well, we'll pick one soon.
I'll rummage around in the bag. We'll see what we got. I know we've got a Dunham goalkeeper kit in there, so
we can decide as a panel at the Christmas pub quiz. So there you go.
That's what we'll do. The last question will be what should be the kit giveaway this month. But all right. Anyway, for Matthew Binns and Pete Hampshire, I'm Ryan Walters. Thanks so much for listening.
공격 공격기 김신우